What up, people? Welcome to the Doing Everything Different podcast. I'm your host, Devin Lars, and today we have Sandra Martinelli, who is a true definition of an entrepreneur. She's had a series of successful businesses and side hustles, including an online macaron shop, a jewelry line, and she's worked at some of the biggest companies in the world like Apple and eBay. And now she's on a creator journey that has led to some big opportunities. I'm excited to jump in and hear your story. So welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Devin. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, let me first start by entrepreneurs interest me, right? I feel like we kind of think differently and operate differently sometimes. And I feel like there are signs of it as a kid and as you start to, kind of grow up and stuff. So take me back to the young Sandra. What did that look like from a child? Were you always into entrepreneurship and kind of starting your own things, or what did that look like?
I think when it came to starting my own things, that kind of happened in between high school and college. But as like a child, I would say, so I was the firstborn in my family here in the United States. My family's from Vietnam. They came here like in the 70s. And growing up, I had a family sponsor who he was just like amazing to our family. We called him Grandpa Pat. He treated us very much like family and provided for us in a lot of ways that, other people didn't get support. So super grateful for him. But he owned a sheet metal company. And so growing up, I never had like a credit card or a debit card from my parents, like anything that I was making, my mom was like, well, you have to work, in order to make money. So Grandpa Pat has an internship or like a job for you. And so my first job, I was like 12 years old, and I was getting paid $5 an hour to basically pick up scraps of metal at the sheet metal company for like 3 hours a day during the summer. My mom would drop me off, pick me up. But I was like starting to get my first couple paychecks then. And so I guess it sort of started then. But then as I transitioned, going into college, I kind of was brainstorming with my uncles. So I grew up with mom, grandma, grandpa, and 4 uncles. And that entrepreneurial spirit, I would say, is very much ingrained in the family. Like my grandmother was definitely an entrepreneur in Vietnam. She owned like several stores, had different businesses when they came to America. And so I was like, I want to start something on my own. And so I ended up doing handmade perfume and ran that idea by my uncle. And he kind of like gave me some things to think about. And so I started like my first Etsy store in college. And then that sort of led to my first internship at eBay. That was like a huge talking point, so right. So I like to say that like that entrepreneurial spirit or story kind of helped me get things started.
I love that. That's awesome that you had people to help kind of foster that and bring it out. What did you study in college? Did you study business or entrepreneurship or anything like that?
No, I was a philosophy major and I studied communications as a minor. So yeah, totally unrelated, I would say.
Yeah. But that's cool, getting the real world experience and then having somebody to run ideas off of and bounce ideas. I'm sure that was a really cool, interesting way of even probably like how to bond together, right? Because it's kind of one of those unique kind of experiences.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. And so you started the perfume company. Mm-hmm. How was that? Did you just start it in your garage? Were you in your dorm? What did that first?
Dorm. It was my dorm. I had like a one of those big plastic tubs. And so I had like a perfume base. Basically, it was like an alcohol base. And then I had all these different essential oils that I would mix together. And it was kind of this like coconut orange scent that I would mix. I would bottle it into these little rollers, and I was slinging it. So yeah, I love that. It was like to other people in the dorms, they would get them as gifts for their family. And then I also sold them on eBay or on Etsy.
That's funny. I love that. I think that, I mean, it reminds me of my journey too. So when we first started printing t-shirts, and even before printing t-shirts, we were airbrushing t-shirts, and we would go and sell them out of the trunk of our car,
Yeah,
and to the people of the community and stuff. So yeah, just entrepreneur 101, just figure it out. You don't know what it is, and just, test it out.
exactly.
I love
Exactly.
that. I'm sure you learned a lot during that
I did.
time and those process of stuff. And did you then go into starting another business, or did you go, what was after the perfume company and the whole college experience?
I did. So after or during the perfume time, I landed an internship at eBay and was really focused on that job. And so then I kind of like let it slip, I guess, or
Hmm.
transitioned sort of out of the perfume. I was doing other crafts. I've like made hair bands, made out of this like elastic in different colors and stuff like that. And was doing like a seashell themed thing. It was called By the Seashore by Sandy or something like
Oh,
that.
that's cool.
I
I
almost
like
I
that.
almost forgot about that chapter. So yeah, did sold some of those things on Etsy. So I've always kind of had like this little Etsy store. And then at eBay, I graduated a year or 2 quarters early from college, started my job right out of school. So I was still living like around campus. Everyone else in my house was going to class, but I was going to work.
Yeah.
Um, and so during that time, let's see, that was like kind of the start of my marketing communications career. I eventually um, got curious about other roles and transitioned to ultimately a product management role in
Mm.
for the selling, um, the consumer to consumer selling at eBay. And so that was really cool just because I love selling stuff online. I sold like clothes on eBay at the time, like any old handbags. Whenever I wanted something new, I was like, okay, you got to sell something in order to get that. Um, and I had my Etsy experience and all of that too. And so, yeah, was that all kind of came together in that role. While I was at eBay, I started a macaron business. So sorry, I think I went forward a little too much. So backtrack. Right out of school, I've always loved being in the kitchen,
Hmm.
and I learned. I was like, I had my first French macaron from um, a former like boss of mine. I also had an internship at Santa Clara, but she brought those lingerie macarons from
Mm.
France. Brought them back. I was like, this is amazing. I need to learn how to make it. So I learned how to make it, and then something about me is I'll like really get obsessed with something and then I'll turn it into a business. So then I made it a lot. It was actually something really fun that my mom and I were doing together. And then I started selling it. So people wanted them for, at first it started out like birthday events, and then I got a couple weddings, and then a couple corporate events were like, oh, we would love this for whatever function they were having at the company. And so I birthed a small business called Baby Got Max. I
Ah, that's cool. I like
love a
that.
good pun.
I like that.
Yeah, so yeah, Baby Got Max was born. I did that for like 2 years out of school. So would do farmers markets, would sell to a local coffee shop, and then do these like kind of catered orders as well. But then that became really overbearing. It was just
Hmm.
me and mom. Mom was like doing most of the footwork. So one great thing is my parents, they live a couple of miles from the office for me.
Mm.
So I would like do the macarons in the morning and then go to work. Mom would bake them. I would come back at lunch, make the buttercream, put them all together, and then we would have them in the fridge. And so that was kind of the Baby Got Max story.
That's
And
awesome.
it was really fun until it became like too much, right?
Hmm.
Just me and mom at the time. I didn't really ask for any external help or like know how to do that because it was just kind of our thing. And so at that same time was when I got that PM gig at eBay to work on the selling app. And so at that point, I had to do some competitive analysis between eBay, Etsy, other selling platforms. And I was tinkering around with some jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a couple earrings. I listed it on Etsy, listed it on eBay. The ones on Etsy were really selling. So then I kept making more and more. And then that I was like, okay, Baby Got Max is going to go on the back burner.
Yeah.
I'm going to do Sandra Martinelli Designs jewelry. And so I did that for about a year. And then I rebranded it into Delacora, which is probably like my biggest entrepreneurial success experience. Yeah, because that lasted for about 5 years. And so it started as like listings on Etsy. Then I got a Shopify store. Then I, got into some handmade events and would do pop-ups and stuff. And fast forward, I end up getting it into one boutique, then 5 boutiques, and then I got it into over 55
Wow.
stores as of last year. Yeah.
Are you doing them all by hand, or how's the production handled?
I was. So I was doing everything by hand. I mean, I would stay up so late and spend a lot of weekends and nights too, just on production, kind of building out my inventory. And then I learned how to design jewelry, just, drawing, and then found a manufacturer and then got a few designs manufactured as well.
I love that. I think one thing that stands out is you're really good at naming companies too. I like all the clever names and the puns and stuff. That's really cool.
Thank you.
I think that it's interesting with a couple things, I guess. So with entrepreneurship, there's always these lessons that we learn from, whether it's new projects or new ventures, and we're able to kind of build on top of what we've learned previously, whether they're past failures, past wins, or whatever the case may be.
Totally.
Did you, and things ebbs and flows, right? You like, sometimes you're on, sometimes you're off, sometimes, you're in the mood and very creative and want to pursue this. Sometimes you're like, okay, I need a break and kind of get burnt out. How did you find the balance between that, even with like your full-time job? Did you learn stuff from that you were able to apply, to your business, and kind of think about how you can kind of put all of these things that you've learned in the past and all these experiences together to kind of launch that and to continue the jewelry business?
Definitely. I think like I took little learnings and little nuggets from each experience. So transitioning from the macarons to the jewelry, the biggest thing was like jewelry does not have a shelf life, right? I don't have to deal with the problem of like timing, when it's going to be made, when it's going to be enjoyed, how long does it have to be refrigerated, all of that. And so I was like, okay, don't have to deal with that, but I can go into doing the jewelry, just like, I guess, taking skills from the partnerships and stuff that I had with like the coffee shop, understanding how to communicate with other business owners and pitching myself to them in order to get my things in their store. So yeah, definitely little experiences like that kind of like built up along the way as I further built out the Delacora.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, entrepreneurship is so interesting, right? Because there's no handbook for it.
No.
There's no guide of like, okay, you do this and you're going to be successful. There's no blueprint, and you just kind of have to figure it out. And I think with now, kind of with technology and YouTube and all the things out there, you can kind of pick and pull some of these ideas, or seeing what people have done that work. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they won't work for you. Sometimes, there's a lot of resources. And I think entrepreneurs, you have to be very proactive and test and not be afraid of failure. What is your relationship with failure? Because I think I was listening to something with Sarah Blakely, right, the founder
Mhm.
of Spanx, and she was talking about how her dad always told her, like when they were growing up, "What'd you fail at today?" So he
Yeah.
kind of got her comfortable with failure. And I noticed that a lot of entrepreneurs sometimes struggle with that, right? Of like, because when you put something into a business, this is you. So it's kind of like you tie yourself into this business. So if it fails, you feel tied to it. So you could kind of feel like a failure at times. How do you navigate that and push through? Because I see a lot of people that don't start because of the fear of failing. So I'm always interested that when people start something, how do you know, how is your relationship with that?
Yeah, I would say I have a pretty healthy relationship with it. And part of that is also I've listened to the same Sarah Blakely
Yeah.
interviews, listened to the same kind of like Gary Vee
Yeah.
interviews, stuff like that. And then also just seeing it in my own family as well. Grandma had a lot of failed businesses, but then eventually made it. My uncle as well, who's in real estate, he had a couple of hard times, but then he kept going and eventually made it. And so um, my friends and I like to call it go energy. I
Mm.
have a lot of that, and so I try to maintain focus on just doing and not being too caught up in the result of failure or like um, sulking in it for too long. Like by the time it fails, I'm like, okay, I need to be on to the next idea, or
Hmm.
I need to just try something different. This is just a really good indication of that. And I think in my like professional career as well as a product manager, and building products that work, a lot of it is testing and a lot of it is failure and a lot of it like failure is learning. And so I think that definitely like carries through all the other aspects of my life as well.
That's true. Yeah, being able to see that in real time and how that works with other companies of like, sometimes it doesn't work, but it's
Right.
just a numbers game. It's just
Right.
keep at it, keep playing. I think something that I was realizing and thinking about recently is, as entrepreneurs, sometimes again you get kind of caught up in your idea and like this is going to work and people are going to love this or whatever it is, and sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it doesn't click and connect. And what I've found recently is like, oh, it's just really a numbers game. It's really being able to like, how do you provide value and push it out and try to provide something that people like, and if people don't like it, okay, how do you adjust it to make it where people will like it, or what are you doing wrong, and kind of understanding and taking that external feedback that you're getting from your clients to be able to then kind of iterate the idea and kind of bring it to life. And so yeah, that's cool that you get to have that experience from your day job. Now, how do you, from a product standpoint, what kind of companies do you help with launching from a product? Is it service products? Is it a mixture of both, or how does that translate?
Yeah, it's primarily applications, so just like
Mm,
front end experiences. So that was with like the selling app on eBay. At Apple, I worked on the search experience for Apple TV. And so, yeah,
that's cool.
I've been really fortunate to be able to work on super cool features that like people are familiar with and use day to day.
Love it. Love it. Now with social media, right? I think so much of it is about content creation, right?
Yes.
Especially with businesses and being able to kind of tell a story and using that. How do you leverage and use social media to build your businesses? I know from a standpoint of just from a creative standpoint, storytelling standpoint, how do you leverage these platforms?
Yeah. I think my greatest examples would be through Delacora and building out that social account. So I started with just like basic, posting pictures of what I created.
Hmm.
But then what I ultimately learned by the end of it was people are really engaged with you and the story behind the thing that you're making. And so I kind of like stumbled upon it by accident. So it started out with like product pictures to
Hmm.
like, this is what I made today. Oh, I was inspired by this thing when I traveled to Hawaii. So this was the result of that. And I'm going to call it the, Lahaina necklace or whatever. Um, and then I eventually kind of got a little bit more personal with it, and kind of let people in. And I think
Mm,
that is something that, in my sort of content creation journey now, that I'm trying to implement as well.
that's awesome. Yeah, the people love seeing the behind the scenes and the behind the scenes stuff. I think we've been in before social media, it was kind of like these corporations controlled the narrative. There was no face behind it. It was just kind of product. And now
Yeah.
the consumer has gotten very smart and they're like, okay, I want to see the story behind this and I want to know who's the driving force behind that. Now, do you have for content creation and like just creation in general, do you have a schedule that you follow? Is it more so of just like I just kind of show a day in the life type of stuff? What is it involved and what is kind of your content creation process like now?
Yeah. It's something that I'm working on, something I want to get a little bit more strategic about and organized with. But because it's like still a hobby kind of side hustle at this point, um, it's kind of just whatever comes to mind. So if I have an
Mhm.
idea about something or something I want to create, I kind of throw it in my notes app. And then when I have the time to record it, I'll just record and edit and kind of keep a backlog. But my schedule right now is like post at least once a day.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, and it's been great for me just because it's gotten me a lot more familiar with the tools. I'm starting to become a lot more comfortable in front of the camera. That was something that was like kind of difficult for me at first, but yeah, I really am enjoying it now, enjoying the process of creating. And it also like translates into my professional life as well.
Mm.
So I've found that I've become a little bit more of a confident presenter where I would be like shaking in my boots before. Once I kind of get rolling, that's when it becomes a little bit more comfortable.
I love it. I love your energy. I mean, I think it as you're doing content and building that out, it's definitely, I can see why people will like and enjoy the journey of all of this stuff. The way you articulate yourself and kind of tell stories is really cool.
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
you're welcome. Do you find it hard to balance like a side hustle and work? Because I talk to a lot of people that are, thinking about a side hustle or they're trying to do it or they're doing it a little bit. Could you provide context to that of just like even balancing that out with being able to commit to posting a day and then having the full-time job and balancing that out and just kind of what that looks like from an ebbs and flows standpoint of just how you maybe need to take time for yourself. Like, okay, cool. Today I need a break where I could just step
Yeah,
back from it.
yeah, absolutely. It's definitely still a learning process for me for sure. But I guess just like with my job, I treat it very much as that. I am responsible for executing on it. And so I'm going to make that happen for sure. And then after that, it's like I have all this time to dedicate to various things. I can spend some time watching TV. I can work out. I can call my friends and catch up with them. I can go out. And so it's for me it's like how do we optimize that off time. And so with my content creation journey, this being my side hustle now, I know for sure I'm going to be cooking because I love it, and now I get to just record while I'm going to do the thing that I know for sure I'm going to do. So I
That's
feel
awesome.
like I'm like killing, two birds with one stone there. And so then I have all this content. Like, you do not want to see my phone. There's like over 50,000 videos
Dang,
that I
that's
need to
crazy.
like clean out. And that's normally a task I do when I'm like on an airplane or something, is
I
clean
love
out
it.
the folder, the photo folder or the video folder. Um, but yeah, it's like, how can I optimize and kill two birds with one stone? So that's one way. And then when it comes to my video like editing, I'm normally on the Peloton or on
Hmm.
my treadmill. Um,
Love
so
that.
I'm like kind of getting in my steps. I'm like being active while I develop the thing that I want. And content creation as a side hustle has been awesome for me in that way because I can achieve both. When I was doing jewelry and the full-time job, I was completely burnt out. To be honest, like by the time I was done with work, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all these orders that I actually have to hand make tonight, and I let like my sleep go. Like now I'm tracking my sleep. I'm pretty sure I wasn't tracking back then, but I'm pretty sure I was clocking like maybe 5 hours a night. If I were lucky. So
Yeah.
and that resulted in just like some health cautions, and kind of an eye opener. Like, am if I'm gonna do this thing, I got to go all the way, and if not, then maybe it's time to chase a different curiosity. Because that's kind of been my like MO with all the different things that I've done. It's like I do one thing, I sort of discover something else, get curious about it, and then chase that. And I think that type of energy also like builds me up a whole lot more and makes me more motivated and driven in all other aspects of life too.
I couldn't agree more in terms of I understand completely because I'm the same exact way. So I understand what it's like to get inspired about something and like, okay, cool. How do I, turn this into reality and create it? And it seems like your content creation is working. I saw you hit 50,000 followers recently.
Yes.
So congrats on that.
Thank
What
you
does
so
that look
much.
like? How does that feel from the process? What does that feel like? Because that's a big accomplishment. That's a lot of people.
Yes, it is a lot of people. I sometimes still can't believe it. But it definitely keeps me going for sure. Um, so when I first started, I think it was like in 2021,
Okay.
I uploaded one cooking video and I was making Vietnamese pho. And it was just kind of one of those like quick, half-second clip,
Mm-hmm.
videos, and it went viral overnight. Now that I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm getting views, I'm getting likes. I'm also getting a ton of hate comments. And that was one of the things I was like, oh my gosh, do I delete this and just like not do it anymore? Because that kind of shocked me. There are a lot of haters out there. A
A
lot.
lot.
And so I kind of slept on it. I was like, don't delete it right away. Let's just see tomorrow. And then I got some more positive comments, but then also more negative comments. And then I had Wolfgang Puck follow me.
Oh,
It was
damn.
like, Wolfgang Puck is now following you. And I was like, okay, you know what? This is okay. I'm just gonna keep going with this. This is
I love that.
in reality, I know it's like his social team that followed me, but in my head,
Maybe not.
yeah, maybe not. And I'm like,
Maybe not.
maybe it is him. Um, so that was like one of the first markers that inspired me to keep going.
Super
And
cool.
then, yeah, and then I was like, I can't let other people kill my vibe, especially if I'm not doing anything to harm anybody. And this is literally like, don't take it so seriously. It's a very simple cooking video.
Yeah.
um, yeah, so then I decided to sort of continue. And so I've just kind of been building out different types of content, different styles of editing, different styles of video. And it's been really, really fun ever since.
That's cool. Yeah. That's the thing with the internet. Everybody, like, there's so many miserable people that they'll just want to leave these comments. Cause like anybody that's in a happy place with themselves is not going to take time to leave negative comments on people's stuff. And
Absolutely.
it's crazy because you can have 10,000 good comments and then you get one negative one. And it's like our minds focus on that of like, well, why did they say that? Why are, it's like, you have to be, content creation, you have to be very mentally tough
You do.
to be able to go through that because people just like to say anything. Sometimes it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's ruthless. It's sometimes like super random.
Literally.
Yeah, yeah. But what
So,
I've learned along the way is just like it's not about me. It's more about
right.
them. So yeah,
100%. What's your favorite platform?
TikTok for sure.
Yeah,
I
100%.
I love it. I mean, it feels the most authentic for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been on Instagram for just as long, but Instagram has always been a place to be polished. Um, and I even see it today, right? Like I'll post the same content on both platforms
Mm-hmm.
and it will always do better on TikTok. But I've done a couple things as I'm editing a video. I'll try to edit one that's more Instagram appropriate, quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote. And so it's like, okay, cutting it a little bit shorter, adding more text, doing it in this style, and it will perform better there. So I'm doing like my own kind of A/B testing right now. But for sure, Instagram's the polished place, and
Mm-hmm.
TikTok's a place where you can be real.
Yeah, be real, authentic. It's just like it doesn't have to be, you pick up a phone and record from there. It doesn't have to be the final edits or anything like that. That's what I love about TikTok as well. It definitely feels it feels more genuine.
For sure.
Instagram gives you anxiety sometimes where you're seeing all this
Yes.
stuff and it just creates this like I just feel different coming off of Instagram versus going on TikTok. You just feel different. Like you learn stuff, you find things that are entertaining on TikTok. On Instagram, you're just like blah. You kind of feel
Yeah.
like that after you get done.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. So what is next for you? Like what is going on that you're looking most forward to, or what are you looking forward to coming up in 2024 in terms of just either content creation, business wise, career wise? Like what are some exciting things that you have on the horizon?
Yeah, so I have a couple of exciting projects. So one of them is a cooking show that I have already recorded and is going to be launched. I think around like late winter. So
Love it.
that's going to be really cool. It's called Not Like Mama,
Mm.
and I actually was casted from it from somebody seeing one of my TikToks. Like
Oh,
that.
really?
Yes, yes. I got this email that was like, "Hi, we discovered you on TikTok. There's the show that we're casting for. Would you be open to a
Wow.
phone call?" I was like, "Is this real?" And I was like, "What does a phone call hurt? You know, I'll take it. I'll take the call." The next day, I like get my husband, my mom and dad on Zoom with the casting director, and like the rest is history. We like got through
Wow.
all the phases, and yeah, and we're going to be on this show called Not Like Mama, and it's hosted by Tia Mowry, which like was
That's
everything to
amazing.
me because I was such a sister girl growing up. And so totally starstruck, still can't believe it, but we filmed back in January. It's like a family style cooking show where there's a matriarch of the family who's known for a dish, and
Mm.
then their daughter or son will then try to recreate that dish and try to make it better. So it's
That's cool.
our episodes on my mom's Vietnamese egg rolls, and I make them with a little spin. So
I love
yeah,
that.
yeah, really,
Was your
really.
mom on the show too?
She was, and my husband and my dad.
Oh, you guys
So
all. Oh, that's you can't beat that experience.
no, I mean it's something that we're gonna remember forever, and I've seen it now because they did a soft launch of it, and I'll share that with you too because I want you to see it.
I want to see it.
Um, yeah, it's so awesome. So I got to have my moment, in the studio kitchen, and my husband, mom, and dad were in another room basically roasting me the whole time. So I it wasn't until it came out that I got to see like the actual footage of what they were
Oh, that's
saying.
hilarious. Oh, so you had no idea that
I
that's
had
how it was
no
set
idea.
up.
Yeah,
Oh, that
yeah,
is
I had
funny.
no idea. So um
That's
that
cool.
was just super, super fun. So that's the launch of that is going to be fantastic, and I'm really, really looking forward to that project, and hopefully, um, be able to do others like it because the theater kid in me, I did theater in high school, just like went off the rails
Love it.
going through that experience. So I hope to land, other opportunities like that. Um, but that's one. And then the second is I just finished writing a cookbook, and it's
Oh, nice.
currently in edit mode. I'm working with a publisher on it. So it should be out hopefully before Christmas. And so that's coming out next too.
That's exciting. That's
Yeah.
crazy that just even the opportunity from the show, from making TikToks. It's just
Yes.
crazy how social media you never know who's. So let me ask you this. So at the time
Yeah.
that you got contacted, how many followers did you have? How many views per video were you getting? What did that look like, at that time?
I honestly think I was at like between 15 and 20,000 followers
Okay.
at that time. And views, my views have not been that great lately. I mean, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes
Yeah, of
I'm up
course.
in the thousands. A lot of times I'm in the hundreds because I'm doing this every day and sometimes multiple pieces of content a day. But then there are some things that go viral in the millions. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
the reason why I asked too is because you just never know who's watching, right? Like, so I think people get caught up in, oh, I need to have 1 million views in order for it to do something, but you can have a couple hundred views, but those couple hundred views are people, and you never know who those people are that are watching it. And so I think that's what's so cool about, social media. You don't know who's watching you.
Exactly. That one person could be a casting director.
There
It
we
was
go.
for me.
It
Yeah.
was. Did you have your email in your bio, or how did they find your email?
I did. I had my email
Okay.
in my bio. So, yeah, so
That's
that
super
was
cool.
just like super, super cool. And I'm so glad because then I really think back to that first video that went viral. And I'm so glad I kept it. And I'm so glad that Wolfgang followed so that I had the inspiration to like keep going. Because if I didn't, then I don't think any of this would have ever happened. So I'm so grateful for that series of events.
It's interesting how if we push through, despite how we're feeling about that, some amazing things can happen versus
sure.
like what you said, if you would have stopped right there, none of this stuff would have been possible. I think that's a good testament to, like you said, that go energy, right? I like that. I'm gonna take that. Just having the go energy. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going.
Right.
I love that. Well, congrats on all your success. I think that's super cool. I'm excited to watch the show. I like the concept of it. That's funny. They were in another room roasting you.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. So where can people find you? How can they follow you? We're going to link all of it in the notes, but anything that you're working on or how people can find you.
Yeah, amazing. So I am on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, YouTube as Sandra T. Martinelli. So you can find me there. I also have a website called littlevietnamese.com. And so that's where I host a lot of my recipes. I do a lot of Vietnamese and Italian fusion cooking. So combining like food from my heritage with cuisine that I have newly discovered and discovered through travel. And so I'm trying to marry all of that together. And so my cookbook, it's going to be called Another Banger. And that'll be available on my website at the time.
I love the names. You have this knack for names. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, congrats. I'm looking forward to seeing the cookbook and the show, and looking forward to watching your continued success. And thank you for being on the show today.
I really appreciate it. Go energy.
Thanks, Sandra. There we go.